I'm Gail Lee with Aging Advantage. I'm the president of the board, of this wonderful nonprofit company. And what we do is help the elderly here in our community through a lot of funding from the St. Louis Area Agency on Aging. And we have this six-part series to caregiving, the roadmap to caregiving that we're doing. And today is the third part. So some of you joined us last week, and if you weren't able to watch it then, you can go back and watch it now. But we really reach out in the community to help the elderly to be able to stay safe in their homes, or if they need to apply for any benefits or any kinds of things like that. But we also do a lot of programs to support caregivers. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And Donna and I are going to talk about it and show you the presentation and then circle back. But this third part series, this is third part. In the first part, Margaret Cook, who's going to be the presenter, talked about a little bit about self-care, but this time it's going to be self-care for the whole time. And I think in these times when we're caregiving, we need to know how to do self-care because we tend to just care and care and care for the other person and not take care of ourselves. And so Donna's one of our care managers, and she's kind of spearheading all these education classes. So I'll let her take it away.
Hello. Well, if just give me a moment here. Let's go ahead and get Miss Margaret Cook up. She will be.
You there is on the next part on Wednesday will be mental health for caregiving.
Thank you for
So
taking.
self-care for caregiving.
All righty, here we go.
Thank you for taking time to think about self-care for caregivers. I'm Margaret Cook, and I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Missouri. And today I'd like to talk to you about being able to care well for yourself while trying to care for another. Self-care for caregivers is a complicated thing in our culture. Caregivers are often surprised by the intensity of the responsibilities that they have in caring for someone else, and they often neglect their own care. Remember, it's very easy for caregivers to overlook their own needs because they're so focused on the one that they're caring about. Sometimes caregivers neglect their own health to their detriment. Caregivers are at higher risk of mortality than people in the general population. I just want you to know that that can be catastrophic if you're the person that someone is relying on as a caregiver, and it's so depleting or so difficult for you that it ends up costing you your life. This leaves the person that you're caring for in a desperate situation, and it certainly isn't the outcome that anyone would hope you would have from the experience of caregiving. Does this help you know how important I think self-care is for the caregiver? Just recently, I heard an example where there was a couple that had been doing really well. They were really having their best life. They had just entered into the empty nest phase, and they were looking forward to the years ahead. And the wife had a stroke. And within a few months of having that stroke, she was back home and she's working on her recovery, but she still has a lot of limitations and a lot of things that she was relying on her husband to help her with and to help take care of. Just 3 months after her stroke, the husband dropped dead of a heart attack. I'm sure that the stress of caregiving played a part in that. I'm not saying that it causes that, but I do want to recognize that ongoing stress can contribute to cardiovascular events, heart attacks, and strokes. It's important to take care of yourself. It's important to get time to rest. It's important to monitor your own stress level. And you want to make sure that you come through the caregiving experience having your own health intact. It's really important in order to do this to be able to prioritize. We often live in a state of the tyranny of the urgent. Everything is now, and we have to do it all, and we have to do it all perfectly, and we have to do it all before the next thing. We've got to get all of this done, and to be under that kind of constant stress and demand can be very difficult. What if the person that you're caring for is a person with a difficult personality, or perhaps they're very demanding, or perhaps the physical limitations that they're experiencing place them in a situation where they're exceptionally in need of care and a lot of assistance? These are the kinds of things that you have to be able to look at honestly, and you have to be able to recognize your own capacity for being able to handle that. Try to prioritize the things that really need to be done, and try to be gentle with yourself. If you get the big things done on the list today, don't beat yourself up about that. Know that tomorrow's another day. And when you see that it's too hard to get through the things that you're trying to do on your plan, think about how you could prioritize that or how you could get help with that. Look for ways to do it differently until you find a way that works. Creating that kind of flexibility and problem solving goes a long way toward building that resilience. If you haven't already listened to the introductory remarks that I've made about caregiving, you'll hear a little bit more about resilience there. But that's really what we're trying to develop, especially for caregivers. We're looking to develop a capacity for them to keep jumping over the obstacles and meeting the challenges that come with caregiving. It's a difficult task because there's so many things that change and that are things that may be difficult to anticipate. Being able to do a good job with that helps you to be able to take good care of yourself. Recognizing your own limitations is okay. You don't have to be able to do it all. You have to be able to do enough, and you have to know where to get help. Maybe you're in a situation where you're not the only caregiver. Maybe you have siblings or other people who are going to be involved in the process too. It's important to play to people's strengths. Let the people who are good at paperwork do the paperwork. Let the people who are good at the housework do the housework. Let the people who are good at cooking do the cooking. Look for ways to allow people to use their best strengths, because that will be less taxing than people who are trying to do a lot of things that don't come easily for them. Remember, prioritizing is key. The other area that I want to talk about for caregivers is the idea of getting respite help. This is where someone comes and takes over caregiving for a period of time so that the caregiver gets some time off, gets some time to not be a caregiver. Respite care might happen for a few hours a week, or you might have respite care where you take the person you're caring to someone else's home, or sometimes even to a facility for a day or two. Maybe they can go to a day program or something else that gives you a break. It's important to recognize that you'll need breaks along the way, and that that's good for you, and it's good for the person that you're caring for. Respite care is one of the main ingredients for people who have a sustainable role as a caregiver and who can go the long haul. One of the situations that I was aware of was a couple who were aging, and as she aged, she developed some problems with memory and thinking, and she became more dependent on her husband to do more things. And the truth is, he really did a good job with so much of what she needed. But as her needs progressed, he became less likely to take care of himself or to do the things that he enjoyed doing. And so he gave up his usual social activities. He gave up his bowling. He gave up the things that he did for recreation so that he could be there for her. And as her situation progressed, one of the things that we encouraged him to do was to allow somebody else to come and stay with her just while he went bowling, or maybe even while he went to the grocery store, or so that he could go and do some of the things that he enjoyed socially. Initially, he only accepted help while he went to the grocery store, but once he found out that she enjoyed the visit from someone else while he was out, he decided maybe he could go back to bowling. And that was really helpful for him. Gave him that time out, gave him that change of scenery, and it gave him some exercise. So I just want to encourage you to look for the ways that you can build respite into the schedule, where somebody else takes over the caregiving responsibilities so that you can take care of yourself. Remember, too, that the person you're caring for and you will become more resilient when you have a range of relationships. Maybe some of your tried and true relationships that you've had for a lifetime or for a very long time will be a great source of strength and resilience. Don't neglect those relationships. You need those now more than ever. You may also need some other relationships. One of the things that I felt was helpful in the years that I did a caregiver support group was that people in that group were good friends to each other. People were able to help people through things, and they were able to be a good sounding board, and they were able to provide emotional support and help. Nothing promotes resilience in the same measure or in the same intensity as good, strong, healthy relationships. I'm sure of that, and I've been doing this for a very long time. Think also about the resilience that comes to the person you're caring for when they are able to maintain their relationships. People who maintain connections socially and emotionally to their friends have a much higher quality of life. Making time for that, sometimes going to some extra trouble to assure that, can be really worthwhile because it helps to promote well-being and resilience. Like I said, you may even be able to combine this with that idea of respite. If a good friend can come and sit with the person that you're caring for while you go and do something else that you need to do, this could be a win-win. They get time with their friend and you get time to do what you need to do, or perhaps to go be with your friend. We talk a lot about support systems, and I want to just spend a few minutes talking a little bit about what I mean by a system. It's easy for us to think of a person who is supportive, but when we think about a system, we think about all of the things that either in succession or in a process all add up together to something that is greater than the sum of the parts. So I can have a support system within my family, but if I just look at that as this person can do that and that person can do that, I haven't quite developed that system to its optimal potential. What I want to do is I want to get that group of people working together systematically so that we're able to coordinate things in the ways that allow people to use their best gifts or strengths. And we want to make sure that there's enough help and support. We want to make sure that we have the timing of things worked out. All of this requires a little bit of thoughtful planning. But in the long run, to look at this as putting a system in place can make all the difference. Systems are less likely to fail than people are. And so I want to encourage you to look at expanding and developing a support system that is sustainable and that is well orchestrated so that it works like a system, like a fine-tuned machine. That's the best kind of support systems that we can have. And remember that those support systems may include a variety of kinds of people. They may be people with formal connections to the system, and they may be people with informal connections. So there may be things that a neighbor can do. There's certainly things that the doctor and the medical professionals will need to do. There are things that you'll be able to do as a primary caregiver. And there are things that other people will be able to do as part of the system that will be just as necessary so that everything can keep going and keep working well. As long as we're talking about support, a minute or two ago I mentioned that at one point I ran a support group for caregivers. That group was really valuable for people to be able to come and talk about their experience. If you have the opportunity to join a support group, or perhaps even to create one, this can be very worthwhile. These conversations can last an hour and a half or so, depending on the number of people in your group. And this is a way for people to talk about their experience, to talk about the things that are going well, the things that they're struggling with, maybe get tips and clues on how to do things better, maybe get referrals to service providers who are doing a good job or to medical professionals who have certain expertise. But support groups can be a very important way to feel like you have the support that you need emotionally and psychologically for being a good caregiver. As you do caregiving well, not only do you need to take good care of yourself, but taking good care of yourself and doing caregiving well will assure good things for the person that you're caring for. I also want to talk a little bit about professional help. In this overall system, you're going to interface with professionals at all levels. You may have professionals who are working with the person that you're caring for, maybe their primary care doctor, maybe their home health professionals, maybe they're surgeons or specialty providers. All of those professionals are a part of your team. They're a part of your support system. You want to develop good helping relationships where you feel like you can rely on them and where they feel like they're interested and willing to help you and the person that you're caring for. Remember that the professionals that we're dealing with are people too. Look at this as an opportunity to make new friends. Build those relationships in a positive way so that those relationships are not stressful for you or for the provider, and so that those relationships stay sustainable and intact for the course of your journey. Selecting the best professionals that you can have those relationships with is really important. Sometimes you're just going to need to select professionals because of their location or because of their insurance affiliation or some other reason. But look at each of those professional relationships as an opportunity to develop a good, healthy relationship, a good friendship with the provider and with their staff. The other kind of professional help that I want to talk about briefly has to do with mental health support and assistance. During the pandemic, we found that many people realized that they struggled with depression or anxiety, or perhaps a misuse of substances, or a variety of other things that they began to realize were problematic. Maybe that happened for the person you're caring for, or maybe that's happened to you. Caregiving is a difficult experience, and sometimes there's a lot of sadness and a lot of complications. It can be discouraging, maybe even depressing. There are also many things that happen because of their unpredictability that make us anxious, that cause us to be worried. When that depression or anxiety begins to influence your ability to think well, to make decisions readily and appropriately, and being able to take good care of the things that you need to do. If any of those symptoms of anxiety or depression or substance use begin to appear to you to have the possibility of being a problem, don't hesitate to get professional help. Professional help is one of the quickest ways to address things and to turn things around when you encounter those kinds of difficulties. Under stress, many people who have had fairly good mental health will experience difficulties getting a professional counselor, social worker, psychologist, even your doctor involved can make a world of difference. Again, during the pandemic, one of the things that we did was we had many of our mental health providers, including myself, who went to using a telehealth platform whenever needed. This has made things much easier for people who are caregivers. People who are receiving care and the caregivers can now receive mental health help from the comfort of their own home. It's as simple as logging on or clicking in at the appointment time. When mental health services are that readily available, I hate to think of anyone suffering on their own and not able to realize how much it could help if they could talk with someone about this. I really want to encourage you to recognize that there's no shame in reaching out for mental health help. Sometimes we think that it would be a bad thing or that there's a stigma for a caregiver to say that they may need counseling or they may need psychological help or support. This is a difficult thing, and sometimes our coping skills just can't keep up with the number of problems that we have to solve and with the quick succession of those problems sometimes. And that causes our psychological health, our mental health, to suffer. Getting professional help is wise and healthy, and it's the best thing that you can do for yourself or for the person you're caring for. Most people who have insurance will find that there's a phone number on the card for mental health or substance use or behavioral health. But if you'll call that number, they'll help you get connected with a provider covered under your plan. If you're a caregiver who is still working, I also want to assure you that many employers are able to provide some assistance through employee assistance programs. They may call them a variety of different things, but it's basically short-term help that's paid for 100% by the employer. So you may get 3 or 5 sessions without any cost at all. And if you have a benefit like that and you're struggling and suffering as a caregiver, I hope that you'll give that program a call. An employee assistance program is a little bit like a community resources. The best opportunity that employers will continue to provide the service is because people use it and it is beneficial to them. So if you have access to employee assistance benefit program, then I hope that you'll avail yourself of that help, that you'll get somebody that you can talk with who will be able to help you look at some ways that you can build up those coping skills and create a method to take better care of your own mental health. And also, if the person you're giving care to is struggling and their mental health is suffering, I hope that you'll help them to avail themselves of the opportunity to talk to a qualified mental health professional and be able to receive the help and support that would allow them to adjust better. There are many changes happening for people who are receiving care. And that loss of independence and the struggle that sometimes comes along with feeling as though it's difficult for them to need this much help. Sometimes being able to get some support for adjusting to the changes that are happening can really make a difference. Can also make a difference for people who are having a difficult time cooperating with or being compliant with treatment recommendations. So perhaps you have a person that you're caring for who has sometimes been reluctant to take medication or to follow the doctor's orders for different things, or maybe they've decided they don't like doing physical therapy or whatever. Sometimes when those kinds of symptoms are coming up, they may be symptoms of underlying mental health issues. And again, getting professional help and having those conversations can really be valuable. I'm going to do an entire segment on mental health because I couldn't tell you how passionate I am about how important it is for people to recognize when they get overwhelmed or when their situations are outpacing their coping skills, that one of the first places to turn is to a qualified mental health professional. In this series of talks, I've given
Well, it looks like that's the end of that one. And didn't mean to share, I meant to stop sharing. And there we go. And well, we can go ahead and talk about the importance of the self-care for caregivers. Again, Margaret is not here, but so appreciative of her sharing that information with us so that we can be available to share it with our clients and caregivers and employees or anyone that is a friend of Aging Advantage and able to look for that information that's in need of that information. That's very, very much so needed in this world, especially if you have ever been a caregiver sometime in your life. You may become a caregiver, or you may be somebody that is being cared for. So this information will be able to help you in any of those areas and aspects of your life.
Yeah, and I
So
think a big point that you made, and I've seen this over and over, is we get involved and tend to neglect our own self-care. because we're trying to focus on the other person. And when she discussed like people put off getting their medical needs met or just their routine things because they're just so looking at that. So the importance of prioritizing, but you have to care for yourself. That has to be a priority, else you don't have the capacity to keep going. And what if something happens to you? Like
Right.
she gave several examples of that, which is so important, but you really can't anticipate every single thing that comes up. So building that support system and realizing what your limits are. Some people take it on, they're just trying to do every single item,
Yes.
and that might not be your strong suit. So, looking at it and things that aren't your strong suit, really trying to find other people that can play into that where it's not necessarily your strength, but
Yeah.
playing around if there's several kids, several caregivers, several people to who has the best capacity to do what types of things. And
Yeah.
not burning yourself out and taking that self-care helps you to be respectful. I think she talked about respect there and a lot. If we get too strained and too stressed, we tend to not have that respect, and just
Yeah.
having that whole system where who can do what when, is a big portion, I think.
Yeah. I even like how I never thought about even joining a support group. I never thought that there was such a thing. And either creating a support group or joining a support group, I thought that was um, something more like an enlightenment, because I think people will actually benefit from that. They'll see that that's something. Because once you, like, for a lot of people, losing their independence is of course is a huge thing. So you tend to be with that person as a caregiver, because first of all, when they lose their independence, a lot of times they don't really want a lot of people in and out of their homes, maybe, or just different hands dealing with their situation, because they're trying to not be embarrassed, or they want to make sure that they still are able to live this life as it used to be as much as they possibly can. So that tends, I think, for the caregiver, whoever is the first person or within the first few people of taking care of a person, they tend to go ahead and take on those responsibilities, because they want that person to feel as comfortable as possible. And once you start learning what to do and how to do for the care for that person, you get used to it. So you're just like, well, I can do it. I'm the only one that they want, or I'm the only one that's been doing it. So I'll just continue. And when you do that, you're continuing to do that. You're going to eventually wear yourself and your body, your mind down to a place where you may not be as effective as you were maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to keep in mind that we want to be healthy, not only for ourselves or for that person, but for ourselves. Because if you can't be healthy for yourself, how can you be healthy for someone else? So we have to most definitely consider that when we're caregiving, taking care of somebody, or even wanting somebody to take care of us. We can't be selfish. We have to know that sometimes it's going to take two or three people to care for you, or you're going to need two or three people to help you care for someone else. That way, you're not in burnout. You're not, neglecting yourself, because again, if you do that, then what's the next step? Are you going to be healthy enough to take care of that person? Or if you have, just say, for instance, you're a person that has two parents and they both end up going down at the same time, can you be there then for mom? You was just there for dad. So now can you help take care of mom? Who's going to do it?
Yeah.
So yes,
And
please do.
I've worked with so many people where the spouse and the person, they've both, been together for so long, and the one's not doing well, and then that spouse is trying to do everything for them, and then they end up passing away. I'll be really shocked sometimes, like, oh my gosh, they were the healthier one, and all of a sudden they're gone because they just work themselves to death.
Yeah, they
So,
do take care of themselves. So.
Yeah, so if you do have a good plan and have it in place, I liked her comment, systems are less likely to fail. So when you have a team and clear objectives of what you're trying to do and what the priorities are, you're not as overwhelmed. You're not going to fail. And then, people do get discouraged, and they do get depression, and they do get these things. So it is important. And like you said, with the support groups, often when there's different support groups, sometimes the person that's receiving the care, there's some type of group for them at the same time. So
that's good.
Yeah. And then many of our companies have EAP programs, as she discussed, and a lot of the EAP programs do provide free resources and free counseling and things like that. But we don't think to ask our employers a lot of times.
Yeah. So reach out. Yeah, that's great. That's good. Yep. Keep in mind of that and just reach out.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank everyone for watching, for tuning in. Again, we'll be back on Wednesday with another portion. We'll be talking about mental health for everyone. So we're going to continue this
the
talk.
mental health for the caregiver, the care receiver, just everybody in general there. And then is there another talk today about something else?
Oh yeah, we do. At 2 p.m. today, we're going to have another talk. We'll be back. It's 988, I think it is.
Oh, about suicide prevention. Is that right? Suicide and crisis prevention.
Yep. So,
which is real important as well. And this whole scheme of everything we're talking about too, when you start to talk about mental health on Wednesday. So there.
Yep. So it'd be great. All just tie right on into one another. So if you can tune into us at 2 p.m., that's only giving us about an hour, or giving you an hour. So go grab your lunch. Come on back. Join us.
And as always, then it's on Facebook Live.